What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, and we're continuing our top 10 breakdowns at the midway point of the college football season of the prospects you need to be keeping an eye on for draft time as well. You know, I'm trying to get more people into college football. I really do believe that if you're a football fan, you don't watch college football, you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. It's tremendous football. So by some of these names that I'm mentioning, if you so happen on Saturday to be flicking through the channels and you see one of these teams playing, it might be worth your while to tune in to watch college football, because college football, in my opinion, is probably pound for pound the best football that you're going to be able to watch. So what we're doing today, we did the running backs before. We're doing the top 10 quarterbacks for this upcoming draft class. I'm trying to give a rough, round prediction for all those teams out there that's looking for a future franchise quarterback, an immediate starter, a backup. I think we're going to have pretty much most of those bases covered. And really the reason why I want to do this is so we have a talking point once draft season begins here on the channel to refer back to and see what has exactly changed throughout. And I think there's some really talented quarterbacks in this year's draft class. So without further ado, let's jump into it. At number 10, we have Will Grier from West Virginia, 6'2", 215 pounds. He's one of those guys might not declare. It's kind of, the downside of doing ratings this early. But I do think Will Grier, with how well he started off with West Virginia, I think he will declare. On the year, 1,374 passing yards to go on with 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He has 131 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. This one stinks because he was at Florida, and then he got dismissed because he literally was on Lane Johnson Mexican supplements, which kind of sucked. It wasn't surprising. He was like 180-some pounds as a true freshman, and then the next year he was like 215. So, you just kind of follow the gym bag trail on that one. But he's looked good at West Virginia. He's one of those guys, underrated athlete, probably at the combine will test better than some people think. So definitely keep an eye on him. I currently have a 4th to 7th round grade. Some teams may look at how everything that transpired at Florida kind of knock him for some off the field, some questionable decision making. But I do think if he keeps his nose clean for the remainder of the season with West Virginia, he'll be like a late mid-round pick, kind of similar to maybe like Davis Webb for the Giants last year. That'll be a good stocking stuffer to put on the bench and see if you can develop something in the coming years. Going number 9, it's going to be Jake Browning, the quarterback from Washington, 6'2", 210 pounds. On the year, 1,251 passing yards to go on with 12 touchdowns and 3 picks. He also has 45 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, Jake Browning is an interesting one because it says he's 210, but he literally is like the skinniest QB out of everyone on this list. He looks like the kind of guy that, I don't think, durability for me. I don't know what it is. I like him. He looks really good at Washington. He made, him and John Ross made some beautiful music last year during their trying to get national championship. Maybe we'll get there again this year. But I think Jake Browning is good. I think he's a limited athlete, and I personally don't see a whole lot of upside. I see him as one of those QBs that's going to come as is. That should probably lock down like a perennial backup role with upside. Kind of picture him like the AJ McCarron role, like one of those guys that's a backup that a lot of teams that need a QB are going to be talking about trading for potentially. So with that being said, I kind of see him as a 4th, 7th round grade, somewhere in between there, depending on how well he tests. But I'll just say limited upside with Jake Browning, but I do like him. He's a really talented QB. Going to number 8 is literally the only quarterback on this list that I am uncertain about. A lot of scouts, be it, Matt Miller, be it on Walter Football, be it on any of those websites, they have him like top 5, top 6. He's one of those dudes that, I fully expect him probably to be off my list when I redo these rankings at the end of the college football season. And that's Nick Fitzgerald from Mississippi State, 6'5", 230 pounds. On the year, he has 783 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks, to go along with 343 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. It's obviously a height weight kind of thing. He has NFL size at 6'5", 230. He has mobile scrambling ability. It's just at times when plays break down, he has some not so great, we'll call it brain farts downfield at costly interceptions. He has not looked good against, the big teams that Mississippi State has played this year. I mean, looking at, he played good against Charleston Southern, played good against Louisiana Tech, played decent against LSU, and then did not look great at all against Georgia and Auburn. Something that could go down to Mississippi State not just being a great team, and, a lot was put on his shoulders. So he's one of those guys I still have to wait and see. Obviously, because of that size and the flashes of talent, you can see why he's definitely regarded as a top 10 QB for this upcoming draft class. But he's another dude that has to really show me personally. Big games, man. You play plenty of tough teams. in the SEC. Let's see once he plays. I don't know what the remainder of their schedule looks like, but once he plays another big dog in the SEC, what kind of numbers he can put up. Can he win games his team's not supposed to win because of his talent? We have to wait and see. But for a grade, I'm going to say between 3 and 5 just because of the size. And he's a bigger prospect than Will Grier and Jake Browning, who we previously mentioned. But at the end of this list, I'm going to talk about my 2 sleepers. I personally think these 2 sleepers should, the way things are going, should overtake at least one of them, Nick Fitzgerald, on my top 10 list. Moving on, number 7 is going to be Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, 6'1", 220 pounds. On the year, he has 1,330 passing yards to go on with 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. But I mean, the level of competition hasn't been, super hard. I mean, Ohio State, he looked tremendous. Outside of that, I'm not going to say gimme games, but for a quarterback of his caliber, he should have put up the stat lines that he has. Baker Mayfield's tough because he does have the off the field. He's been constantly compared to Johnny Manziel. When I see him, though, I don't really see a Johnny Manziel type. Johnny Manziel was always going to be a guy, boom or bust. I think Baker Mayfield, if the off the field stuff can kind of quit it, he's undersized a little bit. Like, he's one of those guys, he's listed at 6'1". I wouldn't be surprised once they go officially at the combine. He's like a 6 feet tall kind of dude. Because of those comparisons, that's why he goes with Manziel. But the way that he plays, man, he looks like a Russell Wilson as a thrower. Definitely doesn't have the mobile ability of a Russell Wilson. But as far as throwing, as far as being able to scramble and make plays, I much more see him as a Russell Wilson type than a Johnny Manziel. And I think the way that Baker Mayfield plays, it's one of those things coming from that Oklahoma, not air raid offense, but they do throw the ball a whole lot. Oklahoma's kind of really like Dallas when you think about it. Like, everything is set up. The play action is lethal. They can run the ball. I'm not going to go any for it because I don't want to say anything nice about Dak Prescott. But Baker Mayfield, I really do like him as a prospect. I'm only at number 7 because it's one of those things. I think they're either going to be on one side or the other with him. You're either really going to like him or you got to think he's going to be insta bust. So as far as grades, I'm going to say anywhere between the 2nd and 4th round for Baker Mayfield. But I definitely would say probably best case scenario, he lands up as a backup somewhere that can develop into a potential starter, but a very exciting player with high upside if he goes to the right team. Going to number 6 is going to be Luke Falk from Wazoo, Washington State Cougars. Luke Falk, I actually just watched the game against USC, and he was tremendous in that game. He's 6'4", 225 pounds. On the year, he has 1,700 passing yards to go along with 16 touchdowns, 2 total interceptions. Really, really good, man. He has, like, all the intangibles. Obviously comes from a gimmicky scheme, but that did not stop Patty Mahomes from, the Chiefs trading up to get him. So I kind of think the NFL, because it's a passing league now, so many teams are not so much discrediting the air raid type players. Like, years past, you think of like Colt Brennan with Hawaii, you think of Graham Harrell with Texas Tech. Those guys just, even though they put up gaudy passing numbers, they weren't getting touched. I think guys like Luke Falk, who in that game against USC, man, made crucial throws. It wasn't just the fact that he was, they're throwing the ball 50 times a game. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that, when times were needed, he could check down to a running back. He was a very smart player, high football IQ, great NFL size. So I'm going to say for him, 2nd, 3rd round grade. Kind of reminds me of Davis Webb a little bit. While Davis Webb was at Cal. Obviously, you can make that comparison. This week is a big test. As of recording this, they're getting ready to take on 4-1 Oregon. I think that's going to be another tough game. He should put up a fairly nice stat line. I mean, he is the spearhead of the insane Mike Leach's offense there at Wazoo. But I definitely think Luke Falk is a prospect that I'm higher on than some, and I definitely could say by the end of the season, when we do 2.0 of this, he certainly could potentially slip up into the top 5. Go number 5, I think, more so than another guy we're going to talk about, is the most polarizing player in this year's draft. And at number 5, we have Josh Allen from Wyoming, 6'5", 235 pounds. So many people have Josh Allen as like the top QB, top 2 QB, top 3 QB, top 5, top 10 draft pick. I don't know. I've watched 2 Wyoming games. He has not looked good in either one of them. I saw the Wyoming game against Iowa, and I saw the Wyoming game against Oregon. In both those games, he had no touchdowns. He had 64 yards against Oregon. He had 174 yards against Iowa. Other than that, he's beat up on terrible schools. Gardner-Webb, Hawaii. Against Hawaii, everyone puts up big scores against Hawaii. He only got 92 yards and a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is. It's just, he kind of goes into like where we're talking about Nick Fitzgerald. People are going to fall in love with his size. He has sneaky athleticism, kind of, in the mold of Carson Wentz a little bit in terms of scrambling ability. He probably will test well at the combine, but it's definitely, I think he's probably the most polarizing player because I don't see it, but I can understand why some teams would. On the year, though, he has 877 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks to go on with 44 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. As far as like a pro comparison, I say Deshaun Kaiser a little bit. I think he's going to be test fairly well at the combine. Not nearly known as a mobile quarterback like Kaiser was at Notre Dame because he can beat you with the feet. Just keep thinking back to when Notre Dame beat Temple. But I think he will test well, so he'll fall in that probably saying 40 range as Deshaun Kaiser, which wasn't that great, to be completely honest with you. For as far as draft, I think anywhere from the 1st to the 4th round. It's one of those things, man. Either a team's really going to fall in love with him and they're going to force the issue with his size, or they're going to look at his production and just go, we can't draft that. You know, it's a small school prospect. But I mean, Carson Wentz was a small school prospect, but he played really, really well. He dominated games. He put them in games they had no right winning. I'm not seeing that with Wyoming or Josh Allen right now. So as that stands, I have to put him at number 5, and I could even see him slipping down a little bit more. Like I said, I feel better about maybe Luke Falk and Baker Mayfield over Josh Allen so far. But we still have half the college football season to play. Go to number 4. It's going to be a guy that I've said countless times should not declare. I think he should return for his senior year, but we have to talk about him anyways. And that is Lamar Jackson from Louisville, 6'3", 210 pounds on the year. 1,636 passing yards, 13 touchdowns to 3 picks, 437 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns for the reigning and defending Heisman Trophy winner. Very Heisman-y stats so far. I don't know if he will be, I don't know if politics are going to get involved, but I don't know if he's going to repeat as Heisman Trophy winner, especially because they lost that game to Clemson. They would have won that game against Clemson, even though he was the offense in that game against Clemson, had 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pick, and I think he was a leading rusher as well with 64. Like, I don't know. Are they going to be able even to catch up to, I don't know off the top of my head what the ACC is. Like, is Clemson in the same division, or does Lamar Jackson and Louisville still have a chance to play in the ACC championship? I don't know, to be completely honest with you, off the top of my head. But I will say that I do think Lamar Jackson should return just because of how this draft class works and how well he's developed this year as a pocket passer. I think if one more year would do him good. But again, if he has an agent chirping in his ear, he wants to chase some money, he should go to the NFL. I mean, that's his prerogative. Comparison from him, everyone says Michael Vick. He's not Michael. There's only ever going to be one Michael Vick. I see an RG3 a little bit. I think RG3 had slightly better, so I don't know what it would be. I think Lamar Jackson has a better arm than RG3. I think he's a better athlete than RG3. And RG3 just accuracy, maybe. You could say RG3 had better accuracy. Because RG3 at Baylor, man, that was insane. That was absolutely insane. But Lamar Jackson is the fastest quarterback I have ever seen. And the fact that he has NFL size at 6'3", 211, probably could bulk up to 215, which I think should be like the minimum weight for an NFL QB, especially one that wants to run. It just comes down to, you know, the speed of the game. And will he be able to adjust to that speed of the game? I think one more year, just being able to get that one more year under his belt as a guy that, hey, right now you see Lamar Jackson in 2017 as I'm trying to stay in the pocket and pass it, rather than when he won the Heisman Trophy that year, he would just take off and run it. So I think one more year of that, one more year getting better at that, one more year having better vision, I think that will help his draft stock so he could be, you know, the undisputed #1 pick. Plus he gives him another year to try to win a Heisman. But for Lamar Miller, right now, because of the 3 guys ahead of him, I have a 2nd to 4th round grade depending on, you know, if someone really thinks that they can make it work, versus people just say, man, he's just a running QB that's going to get hurt. We should just pull him in as, like, you know, Brett Hundley kind of thing. He's going to be a backup to a good QB. Well, he'll look flashy in the preseason. That's pretty much it. But I'm a big fan of Lamar Jackson. I definitely think he could be a quarterback at the next level. But I still think he should return for his senior year. Moving on to number 3, it is going to be Mason Rudolph, the quarterback from Oklahoma State. 6'5", 230 pounds on the year, 1,900 passing yards, 16 TDs to 4 interceptions. He also has 60 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. I will say we're at the top. Mason Rudolph has the sexiest throwing motion I've ever seen from a QB. The best throwing motion. Because of that comparison, I'm going with Derek Carr. Because Derek Carr at Fresno State, again, very similar type pocket passers. I think Derek Carr's, you know, Derek Carr had one of the crazier combines, ran like a 4.6 or something crazy like that. And they're, you know, Mason Rudolph's a bigger guy, but in terms of their just how they throw the ball, their accuracy, their throw power, I see a lot of Derek Carr and Mason Rudolph for his grade. I definitely think he's a 1st round QB as it stands right now. I mean, look at how his season went. Sure, that game against TCU kind of hurt him a little bit. I think, you know, he definitely could clean up the brain fart interceptions every now and then. Seems like he gets a little too giddy because they do throw the ball a lot. He's getting like 30-plus passing attempts a game, which is not, you know, your balanced NFL-type quarterback. But I definitely think Mason Rudolph is a tremendous prospect, 1st-round guy, and I see a lot of Derek Carr in him. Go to number 2. Sam Darnold, USC, 6'4", 220 pounds, and not a good stat line at all so far. Halfway through the year, he has, we'll round up. We'll say he's 1,400 passing yards, 9 TDs to 8 picks to go along with 25 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. You know, it's one of those things where, like, how many times are you just gonna say he has it? He looks like it. When is he gonna start playing like it? Last year he was good, 3,000 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 9 picks, played good in big games. You know, that Rose Bowl over Penn State was awesome. But this year, he's not looked good, man. Costly interceptions. He has in half of his games this year, more than half his games, he's thrown 2 interceptions. Against Washington State, did not look good. It was horrible. Against Cal, against Texas, a game that this USC team probably should have blown out. 2 costly interceptions. So I get Sam Darnold in that Josh Allen mold where he has so many things that you want in an NFL QB, and then you can kind of pawn out some of the things that USC's defense is not, you know, nearly as good as they should be. But he has a good run game. He has good wide receivers, and the fact that they're not able to maintain a balance to his offense, and he's still having these costly interceptions, is worrying to me. And I personally, if I was a team that needed a QB, you know, I understand the value in Sam Darnold. I understand the upside in Sam Darnold, but he would not be my #1 pick. So, as that states, I have to put him at number 2. Pro comp, he kind of reminds me of Blake Bortles when he was good with the Jags before, for some reason, his throwing motion got all gimped up. So, 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago with the Jags, that Blake Bortles kind of reminds me of Sam Darnold a little bit. I still think Sam Darnold probably be a top 10 pick because some hard-pressed team's going to get they have to draft a QB, so we'll go get Sam Darnold. But right now, he is firmly not my #1 quarterback. Who is? Josh at Rosen, the quarterback from UCLA, 6'4", 220 pounds. On the year, he has 2,100 passing yards, 17 TDs to 5 interceptions, as well as 23 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. I mean, all it says is, they've lost twice. They lost to Memphis. They lost to Stanford in shootouts. He, again, kind of like Mason Rudolph, has had a brain fart interception or 2. I remember I was watching the game against Memphis. He had a really, really dumb interception. Like, one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in a costly point. I think it was a pick 6 as well. But in far as throwing motion, NFL size, upside, and I'm seeing that Sam Darnold's supposed to have in Josh Rosen in that Texas A&M game. That Texas A&M game was one of the most incredible games I've ever seen. He threw for 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Clutch performance, big time under pressure. He has the He has the not clean resume, obviously. Like I said, they've already lost twice. He's had 2 picks in both of those losses. But everything I see in Josh Rosen looks like he's passing the eye test for me, much more so than Sam Darnold as it stands right now. I think he's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't know necessarily if a QB will go first this year, but a pro comp, I see Sam Bradford. I see Sam Bradford at Oklahoma and Josh Rosen. That gangly guy, not necessarily jacked. I know a lot of people, when he's coming out, he's the next Peyton Manning, but I see a lot of Sam Bradford, and let's remember, before all the injuries, Sam Bradford was dominant at Oklahoma. Different schemes, he was getting 50 touchdowns a year and all that nonsense, but as a prospect, as a rookie, Bradford looked good. At point in time with Philly, Bradford looked good. That one game he's had so far this year with the Vikings looked really, really good. I see that right now in Josh Rosen. That's not like a shot at him. Sam Bradford can be a good QB. Obviously hasn't won in the big ones yet, but that's what I see for a pro comp with Mr. Josh Rosen. That's why he's my #1 QB. Kind of rounding out the list here. Big question mark is Trace McSorley from Penn State. He's just one of those guys. Like I don't know. I think he might get drafted late. He just throws so many interceptions. He's an exciting guy. I think if you're going to compare people that want to compare Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel, I much more think Trace McSorley is a Johnny Manziel play style type. And for my 2 sleepers, I like Riley Ferguson from Memphis, and the big one is Logan Woodside from Toledo. Everyone's starting to maybe go, maybe Toledo's legit after seeing what Kareem Hunt's able to do with Kansas City. But I think Logan Woodside could very well crack my top 10, maybe even my top 8 by the time we do the 2nd volume of these. But that's for another video, guys. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Any questions or about any of these prospects, let me know in the comment section below. If this is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Let me know what position you want to do next. I don't know. But that'll do it for me here today, guys. Thank you for watching. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.